The story of sOAZ, the super top, is a long one. Few players have been playing professional at such a high level for so long. At 24 years old, he's about to enter his 6th World Championship and his 4th with Fnatic, as the team looks to shoulder the expectations of the best in the West and make Europe proud. But that's no sweats for the veteran top. He's been making Europe proud for a long ass time. Since Season 1, in fact. When League of Legends esports was in its infancy, when GoForLols were the primary source of income for teams, and when even the World Championship wasn't its own dedicated event, instead a tournament held within DreamHack. And it's at this tournament that sOAZ got his real start as a pro, and his first recognition as a player. His team at the time, against all authority, finished 2nd overall, beating out TSM in a best of 3 twice, before ultimately falling to none other than Fnatic in the finals. The 2nd place spot earned AAA a whopping $25,000, around $300,000 less than the runners-up of the 2018 Worlds will receive, but more importantly, it put a spotlight on the young 17-year-old French superstar, sOAZ. As the league scene was growing and more tournaments were popping up, Fnatic, the previous champions of the world, found themselves struggling to find consistent form. It was early on in Season 2 when they decided to make a shocking and risky roster shakeup. It was goodbye to Shushei, the star player and AP Gragas extraordinaire, not to mention fan favourite, and hello to none other than our boy, sOAZ. It was here that the legendary Fnatic trio of sOAZ, Xpeke and Cyanide would start, and this marked a turning point for both the organisation and the player, but things didn't start as smoothly as either one would like. You see, Season 2 was the golden age for European League of Legends, specifically with Teams Moscow 5, the Russian squad who pioneered what it meant to be aggressive in League of Legends, and CLG EU, who had spent the majority of the year in Korea playing in what would later become the LCK, and almost winning it all, falling 3-2 in the finals. These two teams were not only seen as dominant in Europe, but also favourites to take it all at Worlds. Unluckily enough for Fnatic and sOAZ, they ran into both these teams in the Season 2 Worlds qualifiers, and were therefore unable to make it to LA to try and retain their title. By missing Worlds with a moderately lackluster Season 2, there were questions and doubts surrounding Fnatic and its roster. sOAZ definitely wasn't immune to any of this, but fortunately for him and the team, Riot announced a new direction for League in Season 3, the EULCS. Fnatic were able to qualify in no short part due to sOAZ's stellar play in the top lane. With the spring split raging on, Fnatic took home their first LCS title as sOAZ continued to display his pedigree and was even voted in as the EULCS's all-star top laner. Well, that was sort of what happened. It was undecided between Wicked, Evil Genius's top laner, previously CLG EU, and sOAZ as who would go and represent EU at the All-Stars. So they decided it the good old-fashioned way. They played out a best-of-5 1v1, an event that broke Twitch's viewership record at the time. It went all the way down to the wire, and in game number 5, sOAZ whipped out the old AP Nunu and took down Wicked's Jace to secure that spot at All-Stars. And he absolutely did not squander that opportunity. While he was at All-Stars, sOAZ even went on to win the 1v1 skill match. Transitioning from spring into summer, Fnatic were looking to repeat their success, which they did. They took first and qualified for Worlds. At Worlds, they placed first in their group with a 7-win and 1-loss record, and the team would continue all the way to the semi-finals, losing out to China's Royal Club. That's a name you might recognize as they're now RNG, Season 8's World Championship favourites. Heading into Season 4, Fnatic were looking for their 3rd consecutive LCS title, and with previous AD carry Yellowstar moving to the support role to make room for the young and upcoming Reckless, all arrows pointed to Victory Road. As the spring playoffs approached, sOAZ really started to earn his reputation of the clutchest player in Europe, a title that he still proves to this day. His playoff buff was a key factor for the team being able to take home their big, fat, juicy W and being able to represent EU at All-Stars. The summer split was where things started to go awry and would signal the beginning of the end for Fnatic as Europe and the world had known it. Regular season struggles culminated in a 2nd place finish for the organisation, a real testament to the pride of the org, as this was considered a disappointment that would follow them to Worlds where they failed to make it out of groups.
I think it's harder for us than anyone else because we are like friends, so
XPK, Reckless, and Cyanide all left Fnatic at the end of the year, and soon after, so did sOAZ. The 3-year era had come to a close. Being teamless for the first time in 4 years, and after a relatively weak end to the year, there were doubts in the community around sOAZ's capabilities as an LCS level top laner. He'd been around for a while, players were getting younger, and at the grand old age of 21, there were suggestions that perhaps his better days were behind him. Fortunately, the community perceptions weren't shared by those within the scene, and sOAZ wasn't teamless for long. XPK decided to create his own team, Origin, for which sOAZ was to be the new top laner. Alongside veterans Amazing and Mythy, and with fresh talent Niels, who would later name change to Sven, Origin competed in the 2015 Spring Championship Series in hopes of qualifying for the LCS in the summer, which they did pretty handedly. They dropped 1 game in the entirety of the regular season and swept the final playoff series to qualify for the LCS summer split. This promotion also marked the first and last time sOAZ would play a split outside the LCS. Summer rolled through and Origin picked up right where they left off. Questions surrounding the validity of the roster's dominance didn't last long. There was no LCS rust, especially for sOAZ and XPK. They proved it wasn't just the lower opposition that allowed Origin to dominate in spring. LCS teams fell just as handedly, except for one. And of course, as with any anime arc, it was Fnatic. In fact, Fnatic's new roster with Huni, Rainover, and Febiven was so dominant that they didn't drop a single game until the grand finals of the summer playoffs. And can you guess who they dropped games to? Of course, it was Origin. With sOAZ proving himself once again to be a top-level talent domestically, all that was left was the world stage. Unfortunately, Origin was placed into the group of death alongside Korea's KT Rolster and China's LGD. TSM was also there. But not unfortunately for them, the Baguette and his Amis were able to not only qualify for the knockout stages, but also advance all the way to the semi-finals, falling only to the eventual winners, SKT. It was at this world specifically, 5 years into his professional career, that sOAZ really stood out as not only a great European top, but undeniably world class. Sadly, this would be the only success story for Origin. Season 6 Spring saw the biggest shakeup in the identity of the EULCS. Origin and Fnatic, the two previous dominant forces, both struggled in the regular season, finishing 5th and 6th respectively. On the other hand, it was the unknown organization and rookies of G2 that rose to the top. And not much changed in summer either. G2, who had since acquired Sven and Mythy from Origin, won everything once again. Origin, lacking their star bot laners, found themselves barely avoiding a demotion to the Challengers series, and Fnatic missed Worlds for the first time since Season 2. Following Origin's fall from grace, sOAZ parted ways with the org and found himself in a familiar position once more, teamless and all but erased from the community's good books. It was as if by fate, or the anime's superb script writing, that it just so happened Fnatic had also suffered a max exodus of players. And so once again, sOAZ donned the orange and black and returned to Fnatic. Joined by previous Origin teammate Amazing, ex-player turned coach turned player again, Jezz, and some random from solo queue called Caps. sOAZ's reunion with Fnatic wasn't met with open arms from the community, however. The organization was criticized for picking up the washed up veterans in favor of more unproven yet younger talent. And so for not the first time in the Baguette's career, it was time for the man who had proven everything to once more prove himself. Something that didn't go too well to start with. Fnatic's new roster had their fair share of initial struggles. Eventually, jungler Amazing was replaced by Fnatic's academy jungler, a Dane by the name of Broxah. sOAZ's personal performances did more than enough to silence the critics, granting him another all-star berth, and as spring playoffs approached, so did playoff buff sOAZ. They were unable to topple G2, who went on to secure their 3rd consecutive LCS title, something only done before by sOAZ's Fnatic, leaving sOAZ and his team the 3rd place finish. A disappointment by old Fnatic standards, a success by the new ones. But Fnatic wanted more in summer, which they didn't get. I mean, they sort of did. They were the best team in the regular season, but a nasty case of deja vu saw them knocked out in the playoffs by G2, and with another third place finish. Still, they were good enough to qualify for Worlds, where they fell 3-1 in the quarterfinals to sOAZ and his RNG. Off the back of their impressive regular season and Worlds appearance, both Fnatic and sOAZ had finally seemed to regain the esteem worthy of their legacy, which leads us to almost present day and time in Season 8. In a move that surprised some, Fnatic also announced Bwipo as their substitute top laner. This was the first time sOAZ would have to split time with another player. The tandem proved to be a good move, however, and the spring split was a large success, topping the league and dropping only a single game in the playoffs, which included a clean 3-0 sweep of the former champions G2 in the finals. With the usurpers finally defeated, Summer Fnatic continued their dominant pace. Even when Reckless took a back seat to Bwipo when the meta was all topsy-turvy, they proved that they were no longer a team that needed to play through the Swedish superstar, and with Caps now bearing that responsibility, the new look Fnatic breathed through most of the regular season and only dropped 2 games on their path to their latest and 7th total OCS title. In the ashes of sOAZ's dominant League of Legends career, you'll find success after success after success. The best top laner and one of the best players ever produced in Europe. sOAZ is a legend by any pro gaming standards and, in his own words, sees himself playing for many more years. And heading into the 2018 Worlds Championship, there's only one thing that he wants. The one thing missing from his trophy case, the one thing that was denied from him 7 years ago: to be crowned the best in the world.